The 2023 NFL Draft's freak athletes. The players with the most insane athleticism, guys that stand out as athletic freaks. This draft is full of them. Today I'm talking about the most athletic players at every position, the guys we label as freaks. Fans love these kind of guys, but even more importantly, so does Ryan Poles. This year's draft class has some absolute freak athletes. Starting with my first player at quarterback, this class does not disappoint. Anthony Richardson is a true athletic freak. He's extremely raw as a quarterback, but he's the freakiest athlete at his position since Justin Fields and possibly ever. This guy has just everything you look for physically. However, quarterback is the one position where we are set. So let's move on to the running back class. The most athletic guys at running back are Bijan Robinson, Pitt's Abanaconda, Tulsa's Deneric Prince, Chase Brown from Illinois, and Zach Charbonnet from UCLA. These are the most athletic freaks at the running back position. Bijan is a true stud, but Deneric Prince is just as athletic, and we can get him on day 3. That's interesting. Same with Zach Charbonnet on day 2. It's a nice list of runners. At wide receiver, it's not as top heavy, but 2 guys really stand out. Early in the draft, it's Ole Miss wideout Jonathan Mingo. He has a lot of DK Metcalf in him and is a real freak of an athlete. And then you have a late round flyer who is more freak athlete than he is wide receiver at this point, but the potential is there for Bryce Ford Wheaton. He probably will be drafted higher than he should, due simply to his athleticism. Other guys at receiver that stand out are Andre Yoshivas, Rashee Rice, A.T. Perry, Michael Wilson, and more. Moving on to the tight end spot that is just filled with some freaks. Everyone assumes the number 1 athletic freak will be Darnell Washington, but he comes in at number 2 behind Zach Kuntz, an absolute freak of an athlete. Will Musgrave is the 3rd most athletic tight end, but this position just shows how much athleticism is here. Darnell Washington fits the definition of the word freak to a T, and he comes in at number 2. Late in the draft, I also really like Josh Whyle from Cincinnati, another athletic freak. Then at offensive tackle, it's my guy, Darnell Wright, coming in as the most athletic tackle in the entire draft. Blake Freeland, Broderick Jones, Earl Bostic, and Paris Johnson would be other big athletic freaks at the position. Darnell Wright came in as one of the most athletic players in this entire draft class at 330 pounds. He has earned his spot as my favorite tackle in this year's draft class. It's been a slow rise for the Senior Bowl standout, but sitting here on the eve of draft day, and my personal favorite choice at offensive tackle is Darnell Wright, a true freak of an athlete and a powerhouse right tackle prospect. When we get to the interior of the offensive line, it's a little bit less freakish, but there are some really athletic guys. Joe Tippmann did not do any testing, unfortunately, and doesn't have a score. 2 other guys I really like tested poorly. Those were John Michael Schmitz and Olu Oluwatimi. They are still great players, but they aren't athletic freaks. Ricky Stromberg came in as one of the most athletic centers tested. He scored 111.3 on his athletic score and finished in the top 15. The interior linemen do not stand out when it comes to athleticism, but I like Ricky Stromberg as a potential center. The guy with the most athleticism at guard is Sidy Sow. And then if you want to include Peter Skoronski or Tyler Steen, they have plenty of athleticism if they get moved to guard as well. Then we get to defense, starting at defensive end, where there's just an insane number of guys whose athleticism is off the charts. The top guys at this position in athletic testing were number 1, Yaya Diaby, Lucas Van Ness at 2, Zach Harrison at 3, Byron Young from Tennessee at 4, Miles Murphy, Isaiah McGuire, Derek Hall, and then Felix Anuduki Uzoma. Tyree Wilson did not have a score. He didn't finish his testing. Andre Carter and Will McDonald also had good scores, but they finished outside of the top 10. This edge class is just so deep. My personal favorites in this class are value guys, with Yaya Diaby being the most athletic edge in the entire class, and then Zach Harrison coming in at number 3, Byron Young at number 4, Isaiah McGuire 6, and Derek Hall 7. That's 5 out of the top 7 athletic freak pass rushers all have a chance to be available in round 2 and beyond. I expect one of those names I just mentioned to end up as a Bear on draft day. Those guys, again, I'll mention them. These would be at the top of my list as far as favorite day 2 prospects. Yaya Diaby, Zach Harrison, Byron Young from Tennessee, Isaiah McGuire, and Derek Hall. Add one of these guys to the roster, Ryan Poles. And then at defensive tackle, the biggest athletic freak was again my guy, Adetomiwa Adebawore. After him, the top scorers in athleticism were a lot of other guys I like. Gervin Dexter, Keon White, Isaiah Foskey, Brian Brzee, Jalen Redmond, Zach Pickens, Gerard Clark, Dante Stills, and Colby Wooden. I don't know why Foskey was included at defensive tackle. I have him as an edge, but either way, he's another athletic freak. I would add him to that list of the 5 guys I have at defensive end. A lot of athletic beasts are there at defensive tackle, though, more than I expected. That is even with the 2 most athletic freaks possibly in the entire draft not being included in that list. Jalen Carter and Mozzie Smith. Carter is a freakish player, but Mozzie Smith was Bruce Feldman's number 1 player on his freaks list. Unfortunately, Mozzie did not finish his offseason testing, so he doesn't have an athletic or an RAS score, but you cannot make a freaks list without including Mozzie. He's the definition of an athletic freak. When you include those other guys like Adebawore and Keon White to defensive tackle, this class has a lot of freakish athleticism. I would also include Keanu Benton in this list as well. I expect someone from this list of players to be drafted as well. Ryan Poles has plenty of options to add talent to this defensive line. And then I want to get to the cornerback class. The 3 standout players as far as athleticism are Julius Brents coming in at number 1, Christian Gonzalez at 2, and Mekhi Garner at 3. Very interesting mix of 3 players there. Christian Gonzalez is a first-round guy, Julius Brents is a day 2 guy, and Mekhi Garner is a day 3 guy, so you have an option to get one of the top 3 athletic freaks on each day of the draft. Also, just like defensive end, there are athletic players all throughout this position. I was just talking about the top 3 guys, but there are players all throughout this draft with a ton of athleticism. If you missed it, I just released my video on cornerback rankings yesterday, and I happened to include the RAS or athleticism score for every player in the ranking that tested. So check that out for a deeper dive on athletic scores for corners. I did not include linebacker or safety in this video, but I will show the top RAS scores for both positions on the screen. Jack Campbell's the biggest freak athlete at linebacker, a surprise finish over Trenton Simpson, who came in at number 2. And then we have a similar story at safety, where I expected Sidney Brown to be the most athletic freak. He finished second behind Cal safety Daniel Scott when it comes to athletic testing. Once again, this class has no shortage of athleticism. There are players at every position just dripping with athletics, some very well advanced, and some very raw players as well. As a fan, I love these type of players, and I would guess a lot of you watching my videos do as well. Until the DJ Moore trade, 2 of my best 3 videos ever as far as views were ones I made with freak athletes Poles is trying out as a pass rusher, Terrell Lewis and Sammis Reyes. Just to let you guys know, there's nothing new on either player, but both guys are still on the roster, and I will be watching them closely at mini camps and into training camp. I will update you on them as soon as I have some good information. Stay tuned, guys. The NFL draft is tomorrow. Also, if you have any friends who aren't Bears fans and are fans of another team, send them over to my other channel, NFL Draft Network. Me and Jordan T. Silvera will be covering every team's draft over the coming weeks. Also have a video dropping right now on best fits in the draft for all 32 teams. Check it out. Please hit that like button for me. And until next time, bear down.
Swifty in the house.